An organisation called the Gun Violence Archive records the number of mass shooting events across the world. A mass shooting event they define as 4 or more people shot in one incident, excluding the perpetrator, at one location at roughly the same time. In the United States in 2024, during the months of January and February, just January and February, there have been 83 mass shootings. During that time, there have been 16 school shootings as well. Another day, another shooting. We send our thoughts and prayers. Shocked and horrified, every time a tragedy like this occurs, politicians and leaders will front up before the media, post on socials and tweet, "We're sending our thoughts and prayers." That phrase, thoughts and prayers, has become, I think, a flashpoint, a trigger for the well-meaning intention that is no longer coupled with action. If you Google the phrase, you're more likely to find angry op-eds or blog posts rather than encouraging reading. And we're not immune from that same thing here in Australia. 4 years ago, parts of Australia were devastated by bushfires. Our PM at the time, Scott Morrison, was responding like every politician and wanting to express care and empathy for those who were hurting. His Twitter account, I highly doubt that it was ScoMo's posting himself. Someone else tweeted, "Our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been so directly and horribly impacted by these fires." I got to admit that I feel for pollies at times like this, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The headline that I read the next day in one media outlet said, "Mr. Morrison, I lost my home to bushfire. Your thoughts and prayers are not enough." The problem is that the phrase has become meaningless, a way of pretending that you care. It's become code for, well, this is a tough situation, but I'm not going to do anything about it. As a leader, I'm not going to change a policy, but at least I'll send thoughts and prayers. It's an easy meme. You can find them everywhere. Connected primarily with gun debates, but find any tragedy. The response from many is not thoughts and prayers, but anger and bitterness. Now, thoughts and prayers itself has actually become associated with what many have called a form of slacktivism. Slacktivism. I can't even say it properly. Slacktivism. How do I say that again? Slacktivism. It's a mashup, as you can probably guess, from being slack and activism. What it means is to support a political or a social cause by social media or an online petition, but because it takes very little effort, it's slack. I mean, it doesn't take much to like a post or to write in on an online, but it doesn't make that much of a meaningful contribution to the overall cause, because it's such a low-stakes show of support. It's superficial, ineffective. Jonathan Foyles, a commentator, was writing in Psychology Today, and he compared the phrase to an infantile response. He said that thoughts and prayers is the linguistic equivalent of yelling for something to be different when you have the ability to affect that change yourself. I don't think that there's actually an underlying problem with the idea of people praying or having empathy. Even people who are irreligious generally don't mind the idea of others who have faith praying for them. Ironically, many will ask for prayer or impacted when someone tells them that. They will actually express their appreciation. And I don't know of anyone who is unhappy with empathy when they're going through struggle and suffering. You are hurting. I hear you. I'm thinking of you. I have empathy for you. I pray. I don't think there's anything at issue with those ideas. What I do know is that people detest hypocrisy. that words without action are empty. when someone has the capacity to make an impact, to bring real change and does not, thoughts and prayers make the blood boil. Don't tweet, get to work. You know, last week we shared about the value looking beyond ourselves. And this week we're urging each one of ourselves not just to look, not just to see, but also to do. Making a difference. Making a difference. Bringing hope, compassion, generosity, justice to our world. If you've been with us for any length of time, you have probably heard me express one of my values. I want us to be known for what we stand for, not what we stand against. I want us to be seen as a positive impact. I want my life to be not just the things that I argue against, but actually the things that I want to actually do something for. This is about bringing positive change, compassion, generosity, justice. On one occasion, Jesus is asked, who should I love? Who should I bring those things to? Who should I bring hope and compassion and generosity and justice to? You can read about it in the Gospel of Luke, where the writer records this thing. He says, Jesus replies with a story. He says, a Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. He was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes. They beat him up, left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along. But when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road, passed him by. Then there's a temple assistant. He walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along. When he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine. He bandaged them, put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling, take care of this man. If the bill runs higher, I'll pay you the next time that I'm here. He gives him an open credit card. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbour to the man who was attacked by the bandits, Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus says, now go and do the same. This memorable story provides such insight. Making a difference is not easy. Making a difference is not easy. It's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. It's hard to schedule into your diary. In fact, the truth is it ruins your schedule. It ruins your planning. It interrupts the events that we often have marked in our day. Making a difference is uncomfortable. That's the very nature of crossing the road. It takes you from a place of comfort to out of that zone, doesn't it? Takes you to a place that you were not intending to go. You encounter people, you encounter situations that you did not plan to be a part of. Making a difference is costly. It costs our time, costs money, and most costly of all is it costs love. As a pastor, and in fact I think as any follower of Jesus, there are 2 baseline fundamental expectations. Love God, love people. Loving people is costly. I was sitting down with Matt Moran the other day and we were chatting about a situation that we are both engaged in. Both of us are feeling intense pain at the moment about this situation. The caring relationship is taking a toll. Time and love invested is costly. You know that. You know that yourself. James, the author of the most practical book in the New Testament, puts it this way. He says that pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means what? It means caring for orphans and widows and distress, refusing to let the world corrupt you. The caring for orphans and widow was kind of like the prime example of what it means to care for those who are hurting, for those who are on the margins, for those who are, in a sense, the most helpless in their society. Making a difference is difficult. It's not easy. It's inconvenient. It's costly. It's uncomfortable. And James concludes this important paragraph on the practical implications of true Christianity by singling out these ways that love for God should be expressed. Because faith is not just a theory. Following Jesus is not just about an intellectual assent, something that we do up here but never reaches from here to here. Making a difference, bringing hope, compassion, generosity, justice to our world. Today is our 18th anniversary of our Karen community. As Tim said, we'd love you to join us with lunch. And Tim spoke about travelling back to his homeland and visiting TMK. TMK is in many ways the birthplace of Sharing Hope. I've been told the birth story in the past. After the Karen community had been at CHBC for a couple of years, a number of our community were speaking with Jordan Pay. Jordan Pay is one of the leaders of the community, a fantastic guy who's out there. If you want me, I'll introduce you to him later on. And they had befriended, and one of the conversations went, you have experienced our country, we would like to experience your homeland. And so Jordan organised a visit to the border region. One of the places they visited was TMK. As they were shown around the school, they checked out the dormitories. Most of the students live at the school during the term because it's too far to travel from their home villages in Burma to TMK. As they were shown the dormitories, they learned that the students slept on concrete floors. I'm not sure if you've ever slept on a concrete floor. It's not exactly what you would call greatly comfortable. It's not great for your health. It's not a great situation at all. So a couple of people from this church looked at each other. What can we do about this? What can we do? They decided to raise dollars to pay for bunks so that the students could sleep properly, make the most of their study. They raised $5,000 at the time, and Sharing Hope was born. Here are some photos from last month. These are actually the original bunks that are still in use. They didn't offer thoughts and prayers. They made a difference. Now, when I read the story of the Good Samaritan, I find myself considering alternate endings. Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was travelling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. He was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along. Then a temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Now, which of these three would you say was a neighbour to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. Then Jesus said, yes, now go and send thoughts and prayers. No. Then Jesus said, "Now go and do." Let's pray, shall we? For our God, we thank you that you are firstly a God of love. You are a God of compassion and generosity and justice. They're not just words written on a piece of paper, but they are actions embedded in the life and death and resurrection of Jesus. And God, we recognize that if we want to call ourselves followers of the generous Jesus, the compassionate Jesus, the justice Jesus, we should also go and do likewise. Father, help us in all that we do to make a difference in your name.